Picture a super tall skyscraper, about as tall as the Empire State Building. Only this skyscraper doesn't have offices, hotels, or observation decks. It has just one apartment per floor. And they're not even particularly big apartments, because this skyscraper is extremely thin. This is Muraba Vale, far and away one of the skinniest skyscrapers ever constructed. And there's some stiff competition for that title. We're officially in a new era of the super tall. This time, it isn't so much about height as it is about getting a gimmick. Jewels, bridges, see-through pools, and the ultra-thin. Skyscrapers are supposed to be the perfect marriage of economics and hubris. So, how on earth did we get here? How does one apartment per floor make any kind of economic sense? And for that matter, what's keeping these incredibly thin towers from snapping in half? For all of Dubai's superlatives and gimmicks, our story doesn't actually start here. In fact, it starts on the other side of the world, at the birthplace of the super-slender skyscraper. Where else but New York? Now, while it wasn't the first super-slender skyscraper ever built, 432 Park Avenue was the first one built on this scale. And because of that, it kind of defined the style and the new market for super-slenders. Completed in 2016, it soars to a height of 425 metres with a width of just 28.5 metres, giving it a staggering width-to-height ratio of 1:15. The race to build the world's thinnest skyscraper had begun.
Manhattan has always been a destination for high-end real estate, global money. The world's wealthiest buyers have always needed a place in Manhattan. But 432 Park is in that line of skyscrapers that essentially created a new asset class on 57th Street.
The next high-profile super-slender skyscraper was, of course, 111 West 57th Street, known as 111 W57. Arguably the most extreme pencil in the pack. Standing 435 metres tall, but with a width-to-height ratio of 1:24, it easily snatched the crown from 432. These towers defy logic, not just because they look like an engineering impossibility, but because, at first glance, the economics don't add up. More than anything else, skyscrapers are a product of economics. They are enormously expensive endeavours that are created through demand, not just invention.
What you're dealing with is a very, very small site, right? The plot of land, the dirt on which the tower rises, is quite small, but you can get a lot of juice out of it if you know what you're doing. And developers in New York, I think, have always been what we call value maximizers.
In the old days, buildings were stuffed with as many offices and apartments as possible to try and maximise profit. But these super tools aren't designed for the average New Yorker. They're intended for billionaires, hedge fund managers, international investors, and sovereign wealth. While they might be deemed as residential towers, they're not really designed to be lived in.
That ushered in a new kind of buyer, which was the global ultra-wealthy. If you're a Chinese or a Latin American buyer that needs to move $150 million out of your home country to keep it safe from the tax man or political enemies or what have you, it is easier to do it in $30 million chunks. They're willing to pay not kind of a little bit more than the next guy, but 5 times more than the next guy. So those economic conditions created this new buyer pool. That buyer pool spurred developers to go taller, skinnier, grander, flashier, and that's how Billionaires Row was born.
These buildings are about storing wealth. When a single apartment can sell for tens of millions of dollars, developers no longer need hundreds of units to make a project viable. A handful of sales can finance an entire building. And there's one thing above all that elevates an apartment's price tag: its view. Instead of spreading apartments across many lower levels, super-slender towers push every unit high into the sky. The better the view, the more valuable those units become. And the apartments in Muraba Vale are incredible. They're based on traditional Arabic designs, centering the home around a courtyard. Plus, thanks to the extreme slenderness of the building, basically every apartment has unobstructed views, which after all is kind of the point. It's got me thinking a lot about what my own twist on a Muraba Vale apartment could look like and what kind of design elements I could borrow from. Maybe I could look at historically British designs, a Tudor style penthouse perhaps, or maybe not. But I don't just have to rely on my imagination here, because I've got Rayon Design to help me. Rayon is a next generation CAD platform made for interior designers, architects, and those who love architecture. It completely streamlines the design process, from technical drawings to client-ready presentations. No more switching between different platforms or applications, it's just all right there. Thanks to its powerful AI tools, I can also convert sections into axonometric near instantly. There's a library of more than 50,000 CAD blocks, all with top, front and side views ready for any plan and elevation. I can even generate my own custom blocks from images or prompts. So I could give that Tudor thing a go and generate some kind of sturdy oak desk where I can make my videos. Whatever I imagine, Rayon Design can help me build it. Why not try it for yourself and design your very own Muraba Vale apartment? You can scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description. I can also invite anyone to collaborate with me. Maybe the design team over at Muraba Vale are looking for suggestions and inputs. Speaking of which, we should probably get back to those super-slenders.
Those units that are up in the sky are the ones that essentially earn you all your profits. The money shot, the views, the sweeping views of the park in 432 Park Avenue's case, that's where you make your gravy.
Which means that in New York, one of the most valuable commodities becomes air.
Have you ever heard of air rights?
No, I've never heard of air rights. What are air rights?
Air rights are the legal permission to build into the empty space above a property. In New York, the planning laws, known as zoning laws, set a maximum amount of floor area that a building can have, known as its floor area ratio, or FAR. Now, if you've watched the B1M before, you should be pretty up to speed on this. Here's the twist. If a building doesn't use all of its allowed FAR, it can sell that unused development potential to someone next door. In other words, you can buy the right to occupy thin air.
If someone could bottle this air, they'd make $1 million.
And that's why these pencil-thin skyscrapers exist. The towers along Billionaires Row are the physical result of stacking air rights on top of very small plots of land. New York's skyline is shaped by zoning envelopes and transferable air rights almost more than anything else.
You buy air rights, you do something which is called building on stilts. So there's a very interesting quirk in New York real estate development where your mechanical floors do not count to your height limits. So what developers have often done is kind of stack them through the building to essentially create a taller building and skirt zoning regulations that way.
So that's how super-slender towers work in New York, and it's kind of the same thing in Dubai to a point. This is Muraba Vale. It's 380 metres tall, but just 22.5 metres wide. Now, compared to 432, it's not as tall, but it's certainly a lot skinnier.
It is an incredibly skinny tower, and that has become kind of the key marketing engine for this. In fact, the slogan, I believe, is seen and not seen, which means, you know, it's almost a mirage in the skyline.
At a width to height ratio of 1 to 17, it's almost impossibly thin. Engineering a building this slender is one of the hardest structural challenges in high-rise design. The entire project is essentially an exercise in controlling movement, wind and load paths within extreme constraints. Muraba Vale's slenderness ratio is well beyond what's comfortable for conventional towers, which creates three main challenges: wind-induced sway, torsion or twisting, and basic human comfort. We don't want anyone inside getting motion sickness while they're trying to watch the world's best construction channel. But joking aside, the risk of that is very real in buildings like this. The engineering strategy is basically this: stiffness first, mass second. At the heart of the building is a very thick, continuous, reinforced concrete core that runs almost up its full height, acting as a spine. This core is actually divided into 4 separate cores spread across the length of the building. High-strength concrete gives the core stiffness and load-bearing capacity without massively increasing the building's weight. It's a common choice for very slender buildings like this because it can resist both compression and lateral forces more effectively than regular concrete. This is what a core looks like on a typical fatter skyscraper, and this is what it looks like on Muraba Vale. When it comes to a building like this, you sort of have to throw away your prior preconceptions about what a core is. This building is so thin that a core is no longer simply a structural element, it's a third of the whole building. But that alone isn't enough to keep this thing upright. For a tower with a width to height ratio this extreme, simply stacking concrete and walls doesn't cut it. Engineers have to use advanced load distribution systems and high-strength materials to stiffen the core and transfer forces effectively down the height of the building. Muraba Vale also includes hydraulic dampers and tuned mass dampers to manage wind-induced sway. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the B1M, then you're going to know what a tuned mass damper is by this point. But if you're new around here, here's a recap. A tuned mass damper, or TMD, is a heavy mass mounted near the top of the structure that's tuned to move in the opposite direction to a building when it sways. This dynamic system reduces oscillations by redistributing wind and seismic forces back into the structure. Basically, when the wind pushes the building one way, the damper swings in the other direction, bringing the whole thing back to the centre. In addition to tuned mass dampers, hydraulic dampers help to absorb energy from any movement that might be experienced by the building. They're basically like shock absorbers that are placed at key parts throughout the building to smooth out motion and transfer loads back into the core and down into the building foundations. And while Muraba Vale can learn a lot from its predecessors in New York, there are a few challenges that are unique to Dubai, namely the arid desert climate. Most super tall buildings in the Gulf fight this with brute force, often through sealed facades and huge air conditioning systems. But Muraba Vale does the opposite. Its stainless steel Vale facade shades the building from direct solar gain, creating a natural buffer zone. Structurally, this Vale is designed to be lightweight and decoupled from the main frame, so it doesn't add significant wind load or mass, which again is critical when you're building a tower this thin. So now we've got a rough idea of how this building is physically possible, let's look at what makes it viable financially. First off is a fact that I hope we can all agree on. Dubai is not New York. Where New York has run out of land, Dubai has heaps of it. What's more, the city has proved that it can create even more land by dredging it up from the sea. This super-slender skyscraper exists not out of necessity or through regulatory loopholes, but in a bid to stand out in a market that's rife with spectacle. And what stands out above all else is a view, whether it's of Central Park or the Palm Jumeirah.
Dubai has always been this juxtaposition of East and West, and these towers, they kind of adopt that language when they're selling these things. If you look at the marketing materials, it all says skinniest skyscraper, etc. Because in Dubai, superlatives matter a lot, especially if you're selling off-plan. You can't really go touch the brick, right? So you need to give buyers some kind of magnet.
Muraba Vale also isn't the result of a clever zoning loophole like its New York cousins. Dubai doesn't operate a transferable air rights system like New York's FAR trading. You can't buy unused development rights from your neighbour and stack them vertically. Instead, it's operated on a plot-by-plot basis. Height is negotiated directly with authorities. Dubai allows site-specific height increases if a project is architecturally significant and doesn't negatively impact infrastructure or the neighbouring buildings. It's done through the Dubai Municipality and the Development Authority. These bodies don't say you can't build this tall here like other cities would. Instead, they ask developers to prove this building can exist and that it won't cause any problems. If this tower had been put forward at the same height but bulkier, it would have likely been denied since it would have blocked views from other luxury apartments. Dubai's already fully embraced the idea of skyscrapers with a twist. There's One Zabil, which holds the record for the longest cantilever structure between towers in the world. There's the Atanitas Tower, designed in collaboration with the Swiss luxury watchmaker. And of course, the Burj Binghatti Jacob & Co. with its diamond crown. While these features might have some practical purposes, they're mostly designed to grab attention.
The luxury market in Dubai, I believe, is up 70% since 2019. Or the super prime market, which is homes that are selling for 10 million and up, that has really exploded.
Architecture and engineering have always pushed the limits of what's possible. This super slender building boom is far from over, even as the future of Dubai itself now looks a little more uncertain.
Dubai historically has been such a big boom and bust town. We don't know how long the party will last. This time they say it's different, but they've always said it's different, right?
This video was sponsored by Rayon Design. Don't forget that if you want to try out designing your very own luxury apartment in a super slender tower, you can head over to Rayon now by scanning the QR code on screen or by clicking the link in the video description. It massively helps us out when you guys take the time to go and check out our video sponsors, and this is a really cool system to play around with. And as always guys, if you enjoyed this video and you want to squeeze a little slice of the definitive video channel for construction into your feed, make sure you're subscribed to the B1M.